Hey, I'm Cole. I'm 24 and a trans man. That means when I was born, the doctors went, "It's a girl!" And then later on, through living my life, I decided they were wrong. Let's start from my beginning. My parents had trouble having kids and were told they probably would never have any. So I was a nice little surprise. The doctors did their scans and tests and said they'll probably have a boy. My extended family heard that and went and bought a bunch of blue baby things. And I came out a girl. My parents didn't really care. It was free stuff, so I wore a lot of blue. I grew up, for all intents and purposes, a normal, healthy girl. I sometimes worried my teachers because apparently I didn't have enough female friends. Most of my friends were boys. And a big linchpin moment was school, that time of year when all the kids get nits. My parents were sick of me being sent home from school due to getting nits, so they asked my aunt, who was a hairdresser, to cut it into something more manageable, meaning like a bob or something. But she took the vague instruction and gave me a pixie cut. After that, I was constantly getting mistaken for being a boy. At first, I didn't like it. I was a very logical child. I'd always been told I was a girl. I ended up getting into an argument with a younger boy, and I had to basically defend my status as a girl. It was the first time I'd had to question who I am. As time went on, I got really into anime, which led me to this anime called Orin High, which was about a girl who didn't really care about her gender, but had to dress up like a boy. It felt like the first time something really spoke to me, and touched on a complex feeling I had building up in me. I dreamed of a day where I had to dress up like a boy for some reason. In a similar fashion, I ended up having this closet passion for stories of guys being forced to cross-dress as women. I found them oddly relatable. Being trans wasn't my first conclusion, though. I just thought I was weird. I think I had a vague understanding of what trans people were, but in like that vague way where it's a thing that exists, but only through like wild stories without all the facts. The first time I think I met a trans person, and like in a real sense, not like a story, was when I was 15, and a new older guy transferred into my school. He wasn't my friend. He was a friend of a friend. So I saw him around. One day, he was upset. So upset, he just punched a tree. It turned out someone had outed him in class. He was one of his teachers. After that, I would see him in the girls' school uniform sometimes. I didn't know him well enough to ask if he wanted to or if the school made him. I started to consider, what if I was a boy? What if I was like him? I started missing the thought of being a boy while I was growing up. And I didn't realize it was a full-time option. But I sort of pushed myself back into the closet because I sort of believed that if I wanted to be a boy, I'd missed my window of opportunity. I'd already gone through puberty. If I was a guy, I didn't really look like one. And I sort of doubled down on those feelings because a lot of people kept going, teenagers don't like themselves anyway. You'll grow out of it. I spent a few years of high school in that weird limbo of maybe I'm a boy, maybe I'm imagining it. I felt like one of those bad sitcom characters where the solution was just right in front of them this whole time, but due to convoluted plot reasons, they just fumbled around and missed it this whole time. When I first left high school, I was grateful to never have to wear a dress or skirt again. Since school was the only time I was ever forced to wear one, that lingering idea of what if I was a boy still lingered. I tried to live each day to the fullest. I decided to get into higher education, study digital media. My classes ended up being a majority of men, so the few girls that were in the class got grouped together a lot by the teachers. I had this sort of like, I'm not like other girls phase, but I worried it was also internalized misogyny, so I tried to get along with those girls. They were nice. I liked them. But by the time of sort of faking it till I'm making it of being like them, I finished the course and I couldn't really hold myself together anymore. I sort of broke down, I guess. I told people it was stress, and I got a psychologist. I got to know him, worked on my social anxiety with him. I started another course, and during my time doing that course, I admitted maybe I was trans. I told my psychologist. He didn't know anything about trans people, so we're sort of in this boat of not knowing things. And so if it was something I wanted to do, I had to find out myself. My parents, I tried to tell them, but they didn't know anything about trans people. They thought it was just some kind of advanced tomboy thing, and I was an adult by then, so I could do whatever I wanted. I wanted to medically transition, because I wasn't going to pass as male without help. I sometimes even believed that maybe with hormones I wouldn't pass, but I ended up doctor popping around, but they didn't really know things. I tried a few LGBT support groups, and I lived in a small, middle of nowhere town and had to travel at least over an hour to get to anything useful. And the only LGBT support group I found was for youths, and I was about 18, 19 by then. I was just barely on the cusp. It was also mostly about like emotional and moral support, and, finding a safe way to find binders, I guess. And eventually I struck gold, and finally found a medical professional who knew something about trans people and pointed me in the right direction. Despite what some people believe, it still wasn't just walking into the doctor's office and going, "I want to be a man," and the doctor going, "Yeah, sure, come this way." I still had to go through other doctors and mental health professionals just to check that it wasn't a phase, that I wasn't doing it for attention or to rebel against my family. I wasn't very open about what I was doing to a lot of my loved ones because I was worried about those accusations of it being a phase. I didn't know of any adult trans men. I was breaking into new territory. I told myself that I'd tell them about what I was doing once I got my hormones and passed all the tests. At first, once I got my hormones, I, got hairier and smellier. Puberty. Despite being, smelly and stuff, I was happy about it. The fat redistribution happened, and it nudged me into a vaguely more masculine zone. I still wasn't always passing, but that wasn't what mattered. I was kind of happier. I felt more comfortable in my skin. Now, after 3 years, I've started to grow facial hair, and I've only just started coming out to family members. That fear of transitioning for attention that kept me in the closet for so many years, I don't feel it anymore. I'm happier as a man. I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I've sort of started again. I'm not advocating just go out and become trans. That's not how it works. I'm glad so many younger people actually know that being trans is an option. Be able to experiment with how they express themselves. Sometimes even they aren't trans. They get to experiment and find out more about themselves. Anyway, that's enough of hearing me talk about me flailing around trying to find myself. I'm hoping that other people have a much easier time in becoming themselves. Thanks for listening.